Hello, and welcome to our Brown School virtual information session entitled My Practicum Process. My name is Jewel Stafford. I'm the Associate Director in the Office of Field Education. And today I have some phenomenal guests with me who are going to talk all about their practicum experiences. And we're also going to answer any questions that you may have. So feel free, as our guests are introducing themselves or as they're talking about their experiences, to jot down any questions you may have and upload them. So at this time, I'm going to ask my panelists to introduce themselves, give me their hometown, their concentration, and just give me a little bit about what you like about the Brown School. So Renee, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, so my name is Renee Rose. My concentration is mental health. My hometown is Fayetteville, Arkansas, and Brooklyn, New York.
Nice.
And what I like about the Brown School, I like the diversity and inclusion. Those two things are really promoted. I like the enthusiasm of my peers and all of the opportunities that I've been afforded for different seminars and different activities. It's a pretty rigorous education, and so it's been good so far.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mackenzie Robinson, and I'm originally from Orlando, Florida. I'm a first-year MPH student, and I'm specializing in epidemiology and biostatistics as well as global health. One of the biggest things that I like about Brown School is how I can really customize my curriculum and what I study so that I can combine multiple disciplines all in one. I think that's probably been the most exciting part of my experience so far.
Hi, I'm Katie Childs, and I am a third-year dual social work and public health student. I grew up in Southern Illinois, and at the Brown School, I've individualized my social work concentration to be sexual health and education. And similarly, I think the opportunity to individualize a curriculum, and especially within the dual degree, that opportunity to individualize it to make it what I want has been really worthwhile.
Hi, I'm Hillary Lively. I'm from Cayuga, Indiana. My concentration is mental health. And I would say that the thing that I appreciate most about Brown School is the challenge. I think it's challenged me mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and I really appreciate it. Everything that I've learned from those challenges, the goods, the bads, ups, the downs, I wouldn't trade it for the world. So.
Hello, my name is Luther Tyus. I am from St. Louis. My concentration is social economic development. What I enjoyed most is, I guess, the information that you're privileged to. I wasn't a social economic development concentration when I got here. But when I got here and started finding out the data and how things really are, it piqued my interest. So.
Fantastic. So before we get into answering any questions, let's talk a little bit about the practicum process at the Brown School. So one of the exciting things about practicum here at the Brown School is that you get to select your own site. It is a mutual selection process, so you get to choose your own practicum site. We introduce you to practicum sites through a practicum fair, and you also get to work with a field advisor on your particular skills or training or learning experiences that you want to accomplish while you're here. A lot of what we do here in terms of the Office of Field Education is we help to advise, guide, support, and inform your practicum process. You also have an opportunity to choose from over 300 local, national, and international sites. And you get to even affiliate sites, which I know our panelists are excited to talk about. You get to affiliate sites that aren't necessarily in our database. But one of the great things about doing your practicum here is that in St. Louis, although it's small, you get to have a great and an amazing impact in the community. And so your decision to be here, your decision to be at the Brown School helps you to be an influential decision maker. and to sit around and with big fish and make really big decisions about community level projects, initiatives, and issues. All right, so let's talk brass tacks. How do we actually do this? So if you are a social work student, you simply have two ways of going about completing your practicum process. First, you start with your foundation practicum, 360 hours, which are actually 3 credits. You also take an integrative seminar. So your integrative seminar goes along with your foundation practicum. And this occurs in the spring semester. So in your fall semester, we give you an opportunity to acclimate to the curriculum, to the setting, to your community. But then spring semester is when you start your foundation practicum. After you complete your foundation practicum, then we move on to your concentration practicum, which is 600 hours. And you get to be specific about how you'd like to use those 5 credits. So you can use it locally, you can use it internationally, you can split up those concentration credits into different practicum sites, and that occurs in your second year. If you're coming in as advanced standing, the same thing applies. You'll still start your practicum in the spring, but you still accomplish 600 hours, 5 credits specific to your concentration. And again, you get to break it up over 2 semesters, your spring semester and your summer semester. For your public health degree, you have 1 practicum that happens in the summer, and you complete it for 360 hours, which is also 3 credits. Your dual looks like it's a little bit more involved, but really you're just mixing up your Masters of Social Work and your public health. So you'll still start out in the spring semester with your foundation practicum, then you'll do your dual practicum, and then you'll do your concentration practicum. What I really want to emphasize about this is that you have a board of directors. So you're not going through this process alone. You have a field advisor, you have an academic advisor, you also have your concentration faculty advisor, and more importantly, you have your peers. So we're all here to guide you through this process, so you don't feel like you have to do it all alone. So if you have any questions about any of that process, please feel free to go online and upload them. We're excited to answer your questions. So let's go across the table and let me ask you about the agencies where you've completed your practicum, what their mission is, and what they've done, and what was your role in those agencies. So I'm going to start with you, Renee, but feel free to jump in and answer the question.
Okay, so I'll start with my most recent practicum, my concentration practicum, which was with the Department of Veterans Affairs, or the VA, more specifically their Hope Recovery Center, and their mission is to end homelessness amongst veterans in the St. Louis area. So to that end, they provide resources and a number of services: mental health care, primary health care, vocational and rehabilitation services, compensated work therapy. It's a full range of services to veterans. My role was working in a program called the Grant Per Diem program. And basically it's a partnership between the VA and community partners such as the Salvation Army, for instance. In my role, and it's to provide transitional housing to homeless veterans. So on a typical day, I might meet with a veteran for a period of an hour to, it could be up to 3 hours, depending, to do an admission process to our program. And that would include a psychosocial assessment, a full history of their homelessness, whether it was for a month or it could be a year, or if it's chronic homelessness, assess for things like drug abuse history, mental health issues. And the goal is really to find out as much as you possibly can so that you can then get the veteran the services that they needed. In transitional housing, on site, so at the Salvation Army residence, they are housed and they are given wraparound services. So they have a case manager who works with them on getting their finances in order, finding employment, offering group therapy, individual therapy. At the same time, they can be receiving services at the VA as well. And the goal is that within a period of time that we agree upon, so also when I'm meeting with the veterans, we discuss 3 basic goals. One is a housing goal, an income goal, and the next one is a self-determination goal. And it's in their words so that, you know, it's a mutual agreement of their treatment plan. And then we also discuss barriers and strengths to getting through those goals. And we follow the veterans through the course of their time in transitional housing, and the end goal is to get them into permanent housing. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what I did at the VA.
Thank you.
So I'm sort of a special case on this panel because I have not yet completed my practicum. Since I'm an MPH student, I'm actually leaving in a few weeks, and I'm going to be doing my practicum in Zambia for the whole summer. So I'm going to be working with the Center for Infectious Disease Research in Zambia, and while I can't say too much about the specific study that I'm going to be working on, we're going to be working with a new rapid diagnostic test for testing HIV in newborns. So basically, their mission, they do a lot of different, they actually have quite a huge portfolio of different research projects that they're doing throughout Zambia, most of which are national level studies, but mainly revolved around HIV and AIDS, as well as maternal and newborn health initiatives. So basically, I knew that I wanted to do maternal and newborn health epidemiology, so I sought out opportunities in sub-Saharan Africa where I could get that more experience in that field. And then I'm not sure the rest of the question.
Sure. So what was your MPH practicum like?
Oh, well, so I know what I'm going to be doing is that I'm specifically going to be a research assistant, but in the sense that I'm going to be helping with data analysis.
Sweet.
So I'm going to be, we're working at 12 different clinic sites. And so I'm going to be doing like data collection, some qualitative, but mostly quantitative. And so far I've actually already started working on my practicum. I've had to develop a monitoring and evaluation plan for our data collection. So you can even start before you even reach.
Look at that.
Which is sort of cool because I've been able to ask faculty here for advice on like how to go about starting this first project that's been assigned to me. So that's been pretty cool. So
Cool.
yeah, so I'll let you guys know how it goes.
Please do. Thank you.
That's exciting. So I can talk about 2 different practicum experiences. My concentration for social work, I worked in the East St. Louis School District. I was facilitating the teen outreach program in the health class for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders at one of the middle schools. And the top program, I don't know what I just said. Teen outreach program? I think I said that.
Yeah, you did.
The top program,
Totally.
it's a pregnancy prevention program. So I was there at the school 2 days a week. 1 day a week, I was in the classroom facilitating the lesson that came with a manual. We had a plan. And then the other day that I was there, I worked in the district, the main office, and was able to both do prep work in preparation for future days that I would be in the classroom, but I was also able to contribute to fundraising for the school district. I worked on several summer food service grants, breakfast after the bell grants. So what was great about that experience was that I had a lot of agency. I got to collaborate with the classroom teacher, and we got to decide what we thought the best course of action was. We couldn't get through all the lessons in the manual, but we got to pick the ones that we thought were most relevant. And I also really enjoyed, so I think I mentioned in the beginning that my concentration is sexual health and education. So I enjoyed having that experience with the middle school students focused around teen pregnancy prevention. But it was also a great learning experience for me to be able to contribute to the general health of the students at the school through the breakfast grants and the summer food grants. And being able to network both with my supervisor for the practicum was a district level employee, so being able to meet with her as an advisor was great. I wasn't sure in the beginning what it would be like to have a supervisor that I didn't work kind of alongside with or wasn't in the classroom with me, but it was really an ideal situation because she was able to be a great advisor and a great outside opinion. So that was my concentration practicum, and my public health practicum I completed the summer between my second and third years, so last summer, and I worked at a Women's Touch Sexuality Resource Center in Madison, Wisconsin. A Women's Touch is a feminist, sex-positive retail store, and my presence there as a practicum student was the physical manifestation of their partnership with the public health department in Madison, Wisconsin. And so I spent part of my time in the store with the two owners. One's a doctor, one's a social worker, and so I got to learn so much about sexual health and sexual health education from two people who have complementary but really integrative perspectives on how that's best done. And then the other half of my time, I was working at the sexual health clinic that is run by the public health department. Unfortunately, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. They needed to expand their services because other clinics in the area were closing, and so they wanted to be able to expand their services and be more welcoming to diverse audiences. They wanted to be a place where people could come for more resources than just an STI test. And so I was able to, I did an evaluation for them. I sat down for pretty extensive qualitative interviews with every person. It was mostly nurses who were on their clinic staff. And we talked about ways they think the clinic could improve and ways they think the clinic could expand and the concerns they have and the things they would need. And that culminated at the end of the summer with me presenting to a group of not only the clinic staff, but also leaders at the health department about recommendations for moving forward.
Fantastic.
That was awesome.
That
I don't know
was.
how to follow that. No, so like Jewel said, the practicum is split up into credits, so it's 360, right?
Yep.
But it's 3 credits. Actually, my foundation practicum, I was hoping to be there for 3 credits, and it didn't work out, so I was able to just complete 1 credit and then move on, which was really cool. The flexibility that it gave me to like leave somewhere where it wasn't working out for me was awesome. So I've ended up finishing the rest of my foundation and then moving into the rest of my foundation or concentration practicum at St. Louis County Jail. And I actually was the one that sought out the opportunity because it wasn't offered at the Brown School, but cards fell into place and I was presented with a case management position on a substance use treatment team. And that was what my background was before I got to the Brown School, and so I was really interested in working on this team. And so essentially it was 5 case managers, and they provided 90-day substance use treatment to men and women incarcerated in St. Louis County Jail. And it changed my life. It was fabulous. It was awesome. I really enjoyed being able to come in and learn. I think the biggest lesson that I took away was that there are a lot of people that know a lot more than I do. And so, you know, learning and sitting in places where, like Jewel said, there are big fish, being able to also, though, contribute what I'm learning at Brown, what I was coming in with my own experience. Is that all of the question? Okay.
Yeah, totally. Thank you.
Yep.
Those are some great experiences. I'm like, what am I gonna say to it? But I have 2 practicums this semester. The Race and Opportunity Lab, which I was a police officer for 9 years before I got here. So I started doing work on use of deadly force research before I was here, maybe a year and a half. So I continued doing a practicum there. And then I was afforded the opportunity to work with Ferguson Police Department. And at first I was like, I already know everything about policing, but I didn't know about the leadership. So I had the opportunity to sit under the chief Like that's my position, and just, you know, talk about what's going on and see things from his point of view and the rest of the command staff. And that was a new experience for me, especially with how to, you know, engage people and what's going on politically. So, I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better place to have better mentorship than sitting under the chief. Some of the other things I was able to, what I'm doing now in Ferguson is I'm working on a narrative lit review of how to police in urban cities. I started use of deadly force work with the Race and Opportunity Lab. So a lot of good things are coming together from it. And I saw a little question I want to talk about a little bit. You can develop, next semester I'm developing my own practicum. So, and I wanted a police training center at WashU. So that's something that you'll have the liberty to do if you have an opinion or you have an idea of something that you want to, you know, go towards. You can do it here.
Fantastic. Meredith, please take this opportunity to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're doing your practicum.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Meredith. I'm a first-year MSW student, and I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So I'm in my foundation practicum right now, wrapping things up, and I'm at an organization called Doorways, which they have several different programs, but the one I'm working in is a residential care facility for individuals who were previously homeless and HIV positive. And so one of the things with homelessness and HIV is that you have to take your medicine every single day if you want it to be effective. And with homelessness, there's a lot of, obviously, insecurity around that. So they created this program that there's 24-hour nursing staff, there are social workers there during the week, all types of care for these individuals so that they can continue to get better. And it's a really, really cool organization and an awesome experience. So what I'm working on right now is another intern and I have started facilitating a group. So it's called Seeking Safety, and it's a long established sort of treatment group for individuals with substance use disorders and PTSD, which a lot of our clients have. And so we've been able to co-facilitate that group together. That's been a great experience. I've also been able to work with clients one-on-one on goals and treatment planning and just helping them with things they want to work on.
Thank you, Meredith. So speaking of experiences, I'm sure one of the biggest questions our prospective students or even admitted students have is, what was your experience like finding your practicum? So what was the process like? Where did you go to find said practicum? Who did you speak to find said practicum? So what was your practicum process like? And anyone can take this question.
So for my foundation practicum, I went through Brown's system called Simplicity. It was a little tricky because when I then wrote to the practicum site, I discovered that the organization had folded into another organization, and that was the organization where I ended up ultimately doing my practicum. So that whole process was a little tricky, just trying to find the correct people, like who's in charge now, who should I contact. For my concentration practicum, it was a little easier. The VA has a very particular application process, and I believe it was through, we get information from Brown School, but also from, I think it was a professor at another school who sent the information. There's a whole application process, and it's very early that you need to apply. So basically, the information kind of came to me. I had some interest. I had heard, about the VA's programming, but the information came to me for that one. It was a little less legwork.
Cool. Can you hear us?
Okay, so I'll do my best to speak close and loud. So for my foundation practicum,
Yes.
It had a challenging experience. So I attempted to affiliate a new site, and I thought that everything was going great. and then I had a bad day when I found out that it wasn't. And so what I took away from that experience is that it's really important to stay in really close conversation with your field advisor. It's really important to understand. I do think that affiliating a new site for a foundation practicum is not necessarily the norm, but if you are doing that, to really stay on top of what all of the requirements are. It was a problem with the credentials of my supervisor to be that it ended up not working out. But so in the aftermath of that, it felt a little bit like a scramble to find a new place, but I was able to work with Jewel. I was able to find places in Simplicity that still had openings for practicum students. So I wouldn't recommend someone wait until the last minute, but there certainly are. It's not like you're not going to have a practicum. Like something will work out, and it's important to use the network that you have here at the Brown School, and to use any broader networks that you have as well. The process of finding the other two practicum experiences, so working at the school district in East St. Louis was actually, I went to the interview thinking like, I don't really want to work in a school. I had taught high school before, and I was like, I came to social work school because I don't want to be a teacher. Why would I want to go to be in a school? And so it was important then to me that I thought I knew what I wanted, but then once I went to the interviews for the places I thought I wanted, it wasn't going to be what I wanted. And so I was glad that I had taken the advice from field education department to search broad and to have several interviews set up, because it's really hard to know what something's going to be like from a job description. And oftentimes, it's been my experience at least, I don't know if anyone else can speak to this, but that oftentimes supervisors, they're happy to work with you. Like I think that as coming from WashU, that's a lot of agencies are really excited to have our expertise, to have our access to resources, to have the skills that we can provide to their organizations. And if there's something specific that you want to work on, it may not be in the job description, but if you bring it up, they may be thrilled that you brought it up and happy to make that work. And so that's part of what helps to make my experience in East St. Louis such a success. I was there for a practicum for 1 semester, and I've continued working there just outside of practicum for this whole 3rd year that I've been here at the program. And then finally, my dual practicum, which was, no, I guess Illinois is out of state as well, but it doesn't, it doesn't feel like it. My practicum that was several hours away, I affiliated that site as well, and that was really something that I kind of had professional connections and knew how greatly respected these people were at what they do, and I thought I want to learn from the people who are the best. And so it took, it was a long conversation. I first approached the 2 owners at A Woman's Touch about hosting me as a practicum student the summer before. And we kind of just kept in constant communication, and I know that at first it wasn't really clear like how they could support a practicum student, but then once the opportunity to partner with the health department came about, they already knew that I was interested, and so if you know you want to do something, to me that summer practicum felt really unique, and if you know you want to do something that's really tailored to your interests, I recommend starting early and staying in good communication.
Mm-hmm.
So I can relate to Katie a lot. I also affiliated my end of foundation, beginning of concentration practicum, but I wanted to challenge myself when I first got here, and I really knew I wanted to do mental health, and so I was like, oh, I'll work in a mental health, kind of like a residential care facility, and it didn't work out at all. Like, it was terrible, not on their part. I think it just wasn't a fit for me. And so I worked really closely with Jewel, and I was like, what do I want to do? I came in here with a focus on substance use. I came in here wanting to help people in the criminal justice system. What can I do with that? And Simplicity didn't really have many opportunities for me to do that. I know they had like child court, family court, but I was like, I want to get into the jail and work with people. And so actually through my Practice 1 class, we had to do 2 community AA meetings. And at one of those meetings, I ended up meeting with someone who graduated from this substance use treatment program in St. Louis County Jail. And somehow we connected, and I was like, Jewel, we will make this happen.
And
I
we did.
want to do this. And it happened. And like Katie said, you know, there are people on your side. I collaborated with, I think, everybody in academic affairs. I collaborated with everybody at St. Louis County, trying to figure out how to make this work. They were eager to get me in there because not a lot of people actually have their MSWs in the county. So gleaning information from each other was really awesome. And I think, you know, you really spoke to boldness to step into something that you want to do. And Brown School really made it possible for me to do what I wanted to do, and the end result was fabulous. So.
Fantastic.
Well, it really worked out in my behalf to be here a year before becoming a student, doing research and talking to faculty members and things of that nature. So it was pretty much already charted out for me. They were like, okay, this is what you're gonna do, you know, but, you know, which, you know, it worked out in my behalf because, you know, I was here a little while early. So what I've seen from a lot of my colleagues and friends is you want to start early. You want to start preparing and trying to figure out as much as you can because it's gonna be like a free-for-all. You know, trying to find your practicum and doing interview after interview after interview while being a student. So you want to start as early as possible. I mean, just take some time and sort of figure out why you came here in the first place. And, you know, it'll direct you to, you know, hopefully the best practicum for you.
Fantastic. Meredith, or?
And just to add to that, like remembering that we're not the only social work school in St. Louis. So there's other schools. I wouldn't say it's extremely competitive, but you know, it is good to be prepared. And for my foundation, I got nervous and I did one interview and I took it, and it was great and it worked out. But for my next one, I learned to take some more time and prepare, and I did like 4 or 5 interviews for the second one. So.
Fantastic. Please speak to the international process.
As well as the MPH
As
process.
well as the MPH process, yes.
Okay, so definitely start early. Like, I'm sure you're going to hear that more than once. In fact, you should start right now. Like, start looking for organizations.
Right now.
So I think what I've heard from my classmates sometimes is, you know, I knew exactly what specialization I wanted to do, what subject matter, what skills I wanted to get for my practicum, but that's not the case for everyone. And so what I recommend people should do is look up job descriptions of where you see yourself in 5-10 years. What are those core duties or responsibilities that you have in those jobs? That's what you want to like work towards. So what kind of practicum do I need to start that process? I know I wanted to get more like on the ground field work experience, especially with data collection. I started looking at different research institutions around East Africa because that's where I was working before, but I also wanted a new experience in a new country. So you really need to start early, and sometimes you can interview and everything before the official application process even starts. So for MPH, I know for international practicums, we have to submit our applications in October or November. So you really have to start early. But for those who are staying in the States or within St. Louis, it's in your spring semester. However, if you could start talking to people and start arranging informational interviews in September, October, that way once you get to the actual application process, you can check off all the boxes.
Fantastic. Okay, so lots of wealth of information. And as you can see, it's non-traditional. So there is no normal practicum process. One of the things that we really thrive on here at the Brown School is making sure that you customize that experience to your particular skills. And Mackenzie, thank you for that advice. That was pretty awesome about the backward planning and thinking about your job descriptions. Some people have jobs on their mind because they are graduating. So job descriptions are pretty, they're coming up more and more. So what advice would you be able to provide to prospective students who are coming in, who are nervous about working with field ed or having questions or talking to professors or engaging with field instructors, what advice would you give them? And I'm just opening this up now.
Yeah, so I would say don't be nervous about it. You know, this is your opportunity. Any questions that you have, just ask questions. You know, talk to your professors. You know, there are opportunities to just information-wise talk to people at organizations. You know, if you have some ideas of what you might want to do, start looking before you come here. That can be helpful. But just be really open. You know, be prepared to maybe step a little outside of your comfort zone. I was encouraged to do that. I had some specific ideas of what I wanted, you know, out of this education and out of the experience, and that broadened a bit. So, you know, be open and prepared for that to possibly happen. Don't let it freak you out. Suddenly you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know exactly what I want to do anymore. There's a lot of guidance here, and I would say just use it. Really, you know, just reach out to people.
And I would say too, off of that, just be willing to step and like do whatever it takes to get whatever you want. Like, I have made relationships here with especially like staff and faculty that if at any moment I had a problem or any moment I had a question, someone's door was open, someone's phone was open. I think I even have Jules' phone number.
Yes,
because she's walked me through this entire process. Like, she has been with me since I first got here. And so really just like building relationships with people. You're going to do it at school. You're going to do it in your classes. You're going to do it at your practicum. You're going to do it. I mean, we do it anyways, but like it's new information. There's new people. There's new places. There's new things. And so I would just encourage you to kind of have a curiosity for things that you don't know. Just be willing to step into things that you might not know the outcome. Yeah.
Fantastic.
I would add, I think that there are so many resources at WashU for you, but also like figure out which ones work best for you. You know, I think especially coming in, I was, as a dual student, I was a little overwhelmed with like all the advisors I had. I had like an academic advisor and a social worker, and it was like, who are all these people? And you know, I soon learned, but. You know, I think that it isn't, I completely agree that, like, you have a broad network. And I'm not just saying this because Jewel is moderating, but I have found Jewel to be such a wonderful advocate and sounding board. And so, like, you know, for me, that's Jewel, and for someone else, it's going to be someone else. So, like, figure out who are the people that, like, you click with, that when you say what you want and who you are, like, you feel like they hear you and they know you. And that you can have a connection with, because it's been really valuable to me to have Jules' support through multiple practicums, but that for some people that might be a professor, for some people it might be a field supervisor from their first practicum that may help them network with new practicum experience. So you know, build those relationships and then don't let them go.
Yes. Anything from our foundation students?
All right. Publish something. If it's not a model, a narrative lit, you need something to say, this is where I was and this is what I did for your resume. Publish something. You don't want to go, 2 years is going to go by very fast. And you need to be preparing your resume and everything else to say, listen, I did some consultant work at this place. You want to go into your practicum, you want to leave out of your practicum with something finite. So publish something, even if it's a couple of paragraphs, something. So.
Awesome.
And I'm not sure if this has been said, but for the foundation practicum, I think you're encouraged to kind of even go outside a little bit of what you may be looking to do for your career. And that's what I did at Doorways. This is not what I want to do. I want to be a mental health clinician. But that's what I'm doing for my next one. And just to keep in mind that you can learn all types of skills in a variety of positions that can be used, you know, for your career and goal.
Cool.
And also really quickly, talk to second year students like me. I'm sure when you guys get here, I will be a second year student. They have a wealth of information, and that's who I actually went to as my first stop. I started talking to people. Where did you do your practicum? How was the experience? What would you recommend I do? What kind of challenges did you have? Second year students are a great resource as well.
Cool. It looks like we have some questions that are hot off the presses. So, the first question we have is, who are our field supervisors? Are they professors or do they work in the organization? And the question is yes, and it depends. So I serve as a field advisor, which means that I advise my students on and guide them on the practicum process. Your field supervisors / your field instructors are your supervisors in the actual practicum. So they work with you on your educational learning agreement, your tasks, your learning activities. They help you to meet your competencies. You'll learn all about that when you get here. Some of our field instructors / supervisors are professors. They have particular practicum opportunities either here or abroad. So some of them even have international practicums that they sponsor. Let's see, for our second hot off the press question, we have for MSW students interested in international fieldwork, when do they need to apply?
It's the same, I believe it's the same deadline as MPH. I think it's any international practicums. It's an October, November-ish deadline.
Sure, so when you get here, we also provide information sessions. So we want to make sure that you at least understand how sort of the process works. And then we make sure that you know that for international practicum, for example, we want you to apply at least 2 semesters before that summer. So you have enough time to really ask questions, or like Mackenzie said, affiliate a site and develop relationships. So you have information sessions. We provide a practicum fair, so you get to meet some of our practicum sites. You get to meet with second year students. You get to ask professors questions. We have open field advisors of the day. There's no limit. It's almost like we're No Limit Records. There's no limit to how much access you have to us or to other academic advisors or to professors. We really are invested in your success. So we have some questions that were submitted previously, and I want to make sure we have some time to get to those as well. When is practicum due for an MPH student, and how long does it take to complete it? So I'm going to give that to Mackenzie and to Katie.
You can go first, that's fine.
Katie.
So when do you complete it?
Yes.
Typically in the summer between first year and second year. However, I know some people have done it in the fall, concurrently with their fall schedules. So, but typically it's done in the summer between first year and second year. And then the second part to that question was?
How long does it take to complete it?
So it's 360 hours. So if you're doing a 40-hour week, I think I calculated it'll take me, if I, don't want to sleep at all, it'll take me 9 to 10 weeks. But if you want to give yourself some buffer room, I would say 11 to 12. So I would say around 2.5 to 3 months.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is that if it is pretty much like full-time the whole summer, but if you, for some reason, want to do it or need to do it during a semester, the tricky part is then like adjusting your courses so you're not going over your credit caps. So just let that be a conversation that you have with your field advisor, with your academic advisor, to make sure that you're not, doing practicum and then not getting a class that you need. So,
cool. Meredith, you sort of spoke to this, but I'm going to just put it out there for everyone. Does your foundation practicum have to be related to your concentration/specializations, or can you do something unrelated? And then they have like 2 other questions, so bear with me. Is there any way to use work study funding towards practicum? And if you were awarded a fellowship, can you work more hours to fulfill it for your practicum requirements? Ooh, so you can take number 1. You can just
Yeah. So again, you can do whatever you want, and you can get something out of it. So like I said, I'm a mental health concentration. I want to be a clinician, but I'm still learning. I'm facilitating a group. I'm learning how to actively listen and engage clients, and learning a little bit of intervention. So I think it's all valuable to put on your resume, and it's all valuable skills.
And I would just say it can last as long as short as you want. So, like, I finished my foundation and my concentration in like the end of February, where other people that are graduating with me are going all the way into the summer. So it's essentially like, how much work do you want to put in? I worked through summer break, I worked through Christmas break, I worked through Easter. Like every day I possibly could work, I put in practicum hours, because on top of classes, on top of like having a job and like having a life and being able to work out, I knew that like I was gonna have to like make time to get it in, so that it wasn't taking up my entire life, because there is so much that you have to do on top of getting those hours. So you can really work it in however you want. They're really flexible with scheduling it and figuring out what credits and what hours work for you. So
sweet.
And the other question was about fellowships, right?
Yes.
So that might be like a master's research fellowship.
Yep.
I think you can do that. I think it would depend on what the fellowship was.
Yeah.
I think most people have, if you have a master's research fellowship, it is related to something that you're interested in, so that might be a great place to explore practicum opportunities, but probably, but you should still investigate it, would be my advice.
It's usually yes and. So as long as your field instructor is okay with integrating your learning experience and your fellowship, and recording your practicum hours on your timesheet and recording your fellowship for your fellowship, so that it's recorded with separation of church and state, but the activities may be integrated in the practicum. Those level of details really happen in the relationship between you and your field instructor. And I think that's what allows you to expand beyond the job description. So one of the things we always encourage you to do when you go on an interview is to interview your practicum site as much as they're interviewing you. Ask them about their supervision style. Ask them about what students have done at their practicum before. Ask them about opportunities to be paid. I know that a lot of students have asked questions about funding and scholarships, and although we have some funding available, sometimes sites have funding available because they may have gotten a grant in, or they are working on a grant, but they didn't know you were interested in research. And now that they know, and now that Tyus has told you to publish, right, now you could be like, and now I can go on and do this. And so, you know, it's really about how you explore your options and how you pursue your opportunities. And so one other question that we have is, how are hours recorded? Is it an honor system or actual recording of time spent?
Well, it's yes, right? In my experience, as the student, you fill out the timesheet, and your the supervisors it was like per semester, or like maybe per credit hour, maybe just per semester. It wasn't like every week. My supervisor at my field, it wasn't like every week my field instructor was okaying this was Katie's time. I kept track of it. At the end, I got the signatures and turned it in. So I guess it's an honor system, but you are recording the time you spend because you want to learn.
Yes.
And it may also depend a little on the organization. For example, Doorways, like when I get in, I clock in, and then when I leave, I clock out. And I don't think anyone's actually going to look at that compared to my timesheet, but, you know, depends what your organization does.
That's true. Yeah, so I think it's important for you and your field instructor to also have discussions around how your time is recording. If you're doing work, like Mackenzie's saying, before the practicum even begins, how do you want to record that time? How do you want that time to be recorded? We actually have a timesheet in the Office of Field Education that you provide to us at the end of your practicum experience. But how those hours are recorded daily, that really is between you and your field instructor. So we honor that you all are professionals and are going out into the field and are doing what you say you're doing. And we also would like the timesheet to be recorded, and so we can have it for your files. Oh, it looks like we have some hot off the press questions about international practicum. So if you complete an international practicum, are your expenses, flight, living expenses covered, and are they a part of your tuition expenses?
No and no. None of it is covered by the school nor by tuition that you pay. Well, except for the actual tuition or the credit hours that you're saying that you complete. That 360 hours is actually 3 credit hours. So that's going to be your tuition, but all of the expenses you incur on an international practicum are separate from that. However, even another reason why you need to start early, there are ample opportunities for scholarships both at WashU as well as through other means. So our global programs office, they do offer a scholarship to, I can't speak to all, but a majority of the people that do international practicums have received a substantial practicum scholarship that has been more than enough to cover for at least the flight and living expenses. Of course, it depends on where you're going, but it's just even more reason why you need to start thinking about it as soon as possible.
Absolutely. So feel free to go on the Global Programs Office website for that information and contact Tammy Orahood if you have any specific questions about the application, scholarships, awards, etc.
I will add that the expenses are not the same as if you were going internationally, but there is, I think it came from the field education department, there is some funding and scholarship available for people who are going out of state. Every little bit helps, so.
Fantastic. Let's see, for our last question, is it possible for you to do your concentration practicum at more than one site, splitting up the concentration practicum into 2? Everyone's like, yeah, pretty much, yep. We went through that, so excited.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now, but you have to understand it's going to be twice the work, and they are going to expect whatever projects that they have, that you're going to do them, and that's along with your schoolwork too. So there's some pros and cons that come with that. So I mean, I love it, but it's so much work all the time. So we have deadlines when we're supposed to have things published and of that nature. But I mean, you can do it. You might have to drive 2 different places. It's going to look great on your resume. But, just understand that they're going to expect the same amount of work everybody else is doing, that you do it for 2 different places. So.
And I will say for my part, I did my concentration practicum at one place, and it was just fantastic because from the beginning to the end, I was able to do the full range of what the job entailed and then get involved in other areas. So that's my preference. I mean, you can do it at 2 different places, but there's just a nice continuum when you're at one practicum site.
Fantastic. So I would like to thank my amazing, diverse panel. They are just awesome. We're awesome, you're awesome. We can't wait to have you here. But what I really wanted you to get out of this panel today is to see that yes, you can read on the traditional ways to get your MSW, your MPH, and your degree. And you can also have a really traditional practicum experience. But I wanted you to get a sense of what is possible for you. And so if you're reaching for the moon and you land on the stars, how exciting, right? And so these are sort of our moonwalkers here. They have been able to really take our practicum opportunities and move beyond what I had even thought of, and I've been here for a while. So I just want to thank you all for your courage, for being risk takers, and for being a part of the panel today. So give yourselves a round of applause. Awesome. So what are your next steps? Now that you've heard all of this amazing information, your next steps are to apply. So on your screen, you're going to see some hyperlinks for the MSW program and for the MPH program. We are still reviewing applications for admission and scholarships on a rolling basis. So we are still having some more virtual information sessions. And if you have any questions moving forward, feel free to contact me over at the Office of Field Education for practicum related information. But if it's just general admissions, please contact Joshua Walewa, the Associate Director of Admissions and Recruitment. And we are so excited to see you, to hear from you. So thank you for participating. Good luck and have a great day. Thank you.